Hi, I'm making my multiplayer physics-based game in Godot, and while I'm doing that, I'm learning a lot, and I want to share my knowledge with you guys. If you need some help or have suggestions to what I can share with you guys, join my Discord group in the description. In this video, I'll show you how to get smooth player movement and how it can interact with other objects. So let's start with making the player input script. Then go to the settings and add some inputs. We're gonna use the normal movements, like forward, backwards, left and right, and then we're also gonna add a jump and the sprinting mechanic. After that, give it a class name. The first thing we're gonna do is turn off all processing if it doesn't have the authority. Then we'll add some variables, starting with the movement and then the jumping and sprinting. In the process, we need to gather the movement and buffer it. Create a new method called gather. This one is going to be called before the tick loop, so make a connection for that. Make sure only the authority is running it. Then in the gather method, we collect the buffered movement and samples. Also in here, we're gonna check if the user is sprinting, since this is a continued press. Now make a new method called gather always. Then in the process, make sure we capture the input of jumping and buffer it, since it's a one-time input. This one is going to run after the tick, so connect that. Make sure it's only the authority. In the gather always, we are collecting the buffered jumping. Go back to the player scene and add the player input component. Then for the player scene, add a custom script. Export the player component into the player by holding Alt and dragging it in. Now in the rollback synchronizer, you need to gather the inputs. We want to gather the following variables: movement, is jumping, and is sprinting. Remove the default process. Now let's set up the authority. The player should be owned by the server, so we set this to 1. And then for the player input component, that needs to be owned by the client itself, so we put that from the name. Go back to the player scene and add a head node. This should just be a basic node 3D. Move it up and attach the 3D camera. We should also add a body node. And attach the head to that. Move the mesh or any visuals inside the body. Going back to the player script, we now need to export the body, head, and 3D camera. Also rename the 3D camera. Let's make sure all the exports are set up correctly. As you can see, the camera is missing, so assigning that. Now we set what camera is going to be the current one. We do that by checking the authority of the player input component. Export a speed variable as a float. Then instead of using the process, we're going to use rollback tick and apply the movement in there. Let's do the same for jumping. Add a variable for jump velocity. If the player is jumping, we jump. Going back to the main scene, we need to make sure that the player name is authority. In this case, it's just going to be the server, so 1. I forgot to add a isFresh boolean. on the rollback tick. Run the game and you should have basic player movement with physics. Let's quickly add sprinting also, adding a variable for sprint modifier, and then calculating that. If you have any questions or a suggestion for a new video, then you can join the Discord community. Bye.